Welcome to the Trusted Dentist Podcast, the place which answers all your questions about your oral health, your confusions with your dentist, and your dental treatment all in one place. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the most relevant topics out there, which is how do I go about choosing the right dentist for my dental treatment? And with me here today, we have Mariah, and she is a common patient, like we call, who has garnered the courage to put together all those difficult questions most people are very scared to ask. Welcome, Mariah.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, so in today's episode, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How do I go about choosing the right dentist? And that's the real question, isn't it? So, Mariah, what's your first question?
Well, I would love to know why patients feel so confused when choosing dentists today.
Let's just rewind 20 years ago. How would you or your parents go about choosing a dentist? Very simple. They would ask somebody they trust and know, usually a neighbor, uncle, aunt, and then would be referred to your friendly neighborhood dentist, who you would trust blindly about whatever they say. Open your mouth, have as many injections as they needed to give you, and whether it was a filling or an extraction, no questions were asked. Today, very different world. We know so much more about our oral health, about our smiles, and what we want in life. The information overload is out there for everybody. Social media is screaming, dentists wanting to give you a smile makeover, and not to mention all the reviews that people constantly read before choosing a dentist, right? What that has made our patients believe is something that they cannot actually differentiate between what they can believe and what they can't believe.
I mean,
online.
I've been a definite somebody who has gone online and seen so many bad reviews. So you are preaching to the choir here. I've heard this time and time again, done it myself.
And then what's a good Google review? Is 4.9 stars enough? Does it have to be 5 stars all the time? What if you're a 4.7 star and the top review you got is a 1 star? Does that make you a bad dentist? That's all very confusing out there. And that's why it's difficult today and very confusing for a lot of people in the community to decide who's the right dentist for me. How do I trust somebody?
Absolutely. So what do you think when someone is looking for the right dentist? What might be the biggest mistakes that people are making when they're trying to identify the right dentist?
Right. The two things I think most people make a mistake around choosing a right dentist is price and convenience. Now, you might be working, for example, in the CBD, and that narrows your options literally to a couple of streets around you because you've probably got an hour to spare in the day for a dental appointment. And usually you would ask an office mate who's probably had a treatment you don't need and then get into the dental chair of this dentist who probably might have very little experience in that field. Let's just say, for example, you've got a toothache and you need to see a dentist in an emergency. Now, you would either look up Google or ask your mate and then end up with this dentist who might have very little experience in root canal therapy, for example, and his only option for you might be an extraction. Now, to get out of pain, you might say, yes, I'm happy to do that, but what does that leave you with? A missing tooth for the next few years, right? Or a lot of money later on to do more dental treatment. So that kind of process in working out where I want to go and how I want to choose a dentist is usually flawed to start with. Second is price, and who doesn't know how much dentists charge, right? And it's a different episode to talk about what the cost of dental treatment is and what's value and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if price is the only factor we are using to choose a dentist, we're going to always make a mistake because price doesn't necessarily equals quality.
So price isn't a good indicator of quality. That's interesting.
Absolutely. Let's just say buying a car, for example, right? So if you say, look, I've got $30,000 and I want a car, well, you could get a car for $20,000, but you could also get one for $45,000. What really differentiates your purchase is what is it in for you And what are you looking for? What features, what quality, what reliability? Is it safety? Is it luxury? And then there has to be a balance around all that. So it's no different to when choosing a dentist. It's very important to understand value for money versus just price.
Interesting. So if someone's looking at Google reviews, of course, that's one way to find a dentist, I suppose. But what are some questions that they could be asking dentists to find out if they are the right dentist for them?
Yep. So I like to answer this question really based on my experience with my patients when they come and see me. And usually I ask my patients what brought them in. And usually it is around trying to understand what the trigger points for my patients are. Now, that's easy because I'm a dentist. I like to know why and how my patients have ended up with me, sometimes traveling 15, 20 kilometers, right? But for a patient, there's 3 simple steps they should be following. One, they should try and get some advice from some trusted family members who've had extensive treatments or long term treatments or complex treatments with a dentist so that they can talk about their own experience. Number 2, look at the experience level of the dentist in that particular field. It could be a dentist who's been practicing for 40 years but might have very little experience with, for example, dental implants. And he might just be a dentist who does general dentistry or patch and fill dentistry. That's not the kind of dentist you want to go for if you want long-term solutions. So the experience level of the dentist in the particular area that you are wanting your dental treatment is super, super important. And the third factor, obviously, nowadays is around Google reviews. But you have to be careful about what's on there and always take it with a pinch of salt because you never know what's true and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's very good advice. So, would you say there's some red flags during a consultation that you might want to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, if you have a dental appointment with a dentist, sometimes you might get that appointment immediately. That's not to say that the dentist is not busy or doesn't have experience, so it's, basically doing nothing around. We do have emergency appointments that some dentists allow for their patients, but things that will really trigger you to become a little bit wary is if the dentist starts to get a bit pushy in one particular treatment concept, which they are comfortable with. So make sure you're asking the dentist a lot of questions to understand and educating yourself around the complex treatment that's being proposed so that you can take it away and do your own research to come back and make an informed decision. Rushing a decision at the dentist, usually guided and motivated by the dentist, is a very big red flag.
Interesting. So, does that happen when people come in for one thing and if they go to the wrong dentist, they might end up with something that they didn't even need?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's not uncommon. Dentists usually, most often, try to do the right thing by their patients. Often they get into a spot where sometimes patients want solutions immediately, right? And as a dentist, we are professionals, we are APRA registered, and we have a duty of care and have ethics to abide by. Unfortunately, sometimes these areas get blurred. There are gray areas around what we think is right versus what we believe is right and what we do is right. And that often is a case, which usually my patients tell me all the time about, is when they went to a dentist and were forced into a treatment and then regretted it later. As you can understand, most of the dental treatments we do are irreversible. Once you drill a tooth, you can't put the enamel back on. Once you pull a tooth out, you can't implant it back on. So really, you got to be really wary around dentists who rush things. Sometimes, treatment plans are pushed in front of patients with payment plans that they have to sign up on very quickly so as to get on with the treatment. There's no rush. Trust me, no one dies with dental toothache. You have to wait. You have to take it home. There are other ways to relieve the pain and then take time to think through all your options.
That is very good advice. If someone's coming in and they're asking all the right questions and they're feeling confident in their choice of dentist, how can they actually feel confident walking away that they're getting the right information?
Yeah. Look, that's a very complex question to answer. If you're with a dentist and you are starting to build a level of trust with this dentist, and trust is a very, difficult thing to establish, right? I mean, you would never walk into a situation where you can establish trust very easily, especially when it comes to, elective treatments, right? So if you are developing a trust with the dentist and the dentist is taking their time in giving you choices, that's a really good place to be. If they are telling you to take things away home and come back for a second consultation after you've read all the information, that's a very good place to be. If they're telling you to bring a family member, a partner, or a friend back to ask more questions, that's the dentist you want to be with.
So, Dr. Ved, I have a question, and it's kind of a personal one. I've
Sure.
been someone who has been a sucker to social media. I've seen dentists pop up. They have all the influencers that are going to them, and they have a lot of really good reviews. Does that mean that they are a good dentist, or is this something that I should be a little bit more weary about?
It's funny you ask this question because 90% people now in today's world make decisions based on influence. And where are the influences right now? They're on Instagram, TikTok, a little bit of Facebook for the oldies. But these places are where these influencers can easily influence your decision. Now, whether that's right or wrong is a different, argument altogether. But I would always say that social media has its place, and we are very, very strong on that ourselves. We believe that our patients should be knowing what's happening in our practice, whether it's a new dentist joining or whether it's a, Invisalign day that we're doing for braces, or whether it is a, free consultation or obligation-free consultation that we offer our patients. However, always take what you see on social media with a pinch of salt. Not everything that glitters is gold. And I often tell my patients that those little, sparkling eyes and, 24-hour makeovers, there's a little bit of, complexity behind it, which they never show you or tell you about. The other problem is a lot of these influencers are paid. And obviously, if you're paid, you got to produce it for the person who's paying you. And they would necessarily not give you all of that advice in your best interests. So social media, definitely, we love it and we can't live without it. But at the same time, when it comes to professional services, such as your dentist, oral health, complex medical decisions, always take it with a pinch of salt.
Amazing. All right, Dr. Ved. Well, I think you've answered all of my questions that I have today. Thank you so much.
Well, I can only tell you, it's all about communication and trust. Open communication and transparency is what you should be looking for in your dentist.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Ved.
You're welcome, Mariah. If you're on a journey to improving your smile, take your time and ask the right questions. And always seek understanding before making a decision. Because the best decisions are informed ones. If this episode has helped you in any way, share it with someone who might need it.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Before making any treatment decisions, please seek independent medical advice.